Hello, in today's video we are going to be covering the usage of the ribbon buttons within the Klevr Contract application for contracts that are in an active state. So currently on the screen you can see that I've selected an active contract. We can see that by the status reason here, and then because this contract is active we have a couple of additional buttons that have appeared in the ribbon for this particular contract. The suspend button will allow me to suspend this contract, so I can see the contract that is going to be suspended. I can enter the date that this contract should be suspended until. I can enter my suspension reason, and then I can enter any additional information that I want to be tracked alongside this suspension contract action as well. Once I enter these details and save and close this suspension confirmation, my contract record will be updated to suspended, which should halt all contract activities until that suspension is lifted. Instead of suspending, if I want to terminate a contract early, I can select the cancel button, which will once again allow me to do a new contract action. In this case, I am terminating or canceling a contract, and I can enter the termination date, the reason for cancellation, and any additional information. And importantly, for both our suspension and cancellation activities, we can also see some auditing around the actioned by, and this will look up the user that is creating this new contract action. That is how I can suspend or cancel an active contract. However, oftentimes we will want to renew or revise a contract as well. Before we select these buttons, I just want to draw your attention to the extended number, and here you can see we're looking at this contract, which is an auto number where it's a prefix of CON and then a set number of 7 numbers, and then we have a colon with a 0 and a 1. Now these values are important because this will tell me the version of the contract that we're on and the variation of the contract that we're on. So here I can see that I'm on the first version of this contract. However, there's been one previous contract variation. Now, every time I renew or revise this contract, this number will increment. So for each contract variation, our variation number will increment, and for each renewal, our version number will increment. The functionality tied behind the renewal and revising actions are quite similar. What will happen is when I select this button, it will ask me to confirm, and then it will do a cloning of the existing contract record. Now this cloning also supports deep cloning, so if you've done the work to set up your contract budgets, your contract transactions, the T's and C's applied to this contract, and the milestones, you don't want to have to go back through and reassociate all of those records with your new contract. So it will deep clone, and it will copy not only the information on the contract, as we see we have our new contract variation with a lot of the same information, but it will also copy the child records associated with that contract. So those milestones, terms and conditions, and financial records will be copied onto this contract as well, so I do not need to redo any of this work. Now, as you can see, as I've done a variation, we can see our variation number has now incremented, but importantly, it has kept this variation in a draft state. This will allow me to enter the information on this new contract variation, so I can do the changes that I need to do to vary the contract in the way that I want to vary the contract, or on a renewal, I might be entering new key dates, new start and end dates for a new contract, and I can enter those information. I can even work collaboratively with other users to make sure the contract is set up, and when it is ready, I can then go into the status reason and I can set this contract variation to active. This action will then set this as the new active contract on this thread, and my old contract record will be deactivated. So it's really important that you don't have multiple contracts for the same contract record active in your system at once. So there's some logic that will automatically deactivate the original contract. So version CO1 1001 0.1, our original contract record, still exists in the system, but in a deactivated state. Now, the reason that we do this is because it allows us to maintain historical records of all of the past contracts in the system, rather than just updating the single contract record. If I were to just make my contract variation changes on that contract record, one, those contract variation or renewals are made in real time and there's no chance for me to review or approve those changes to the contract before it's made live. But two, I then need to be concerned with audit history. By default, the audit logs are kept within the system for 28 days and that time can be expanded. But after whatever the retention period for those audit logs is expired, I'll lose that auditing history as to who made the changes and what changes were made to the original contract record. The way we handle things by copying contract records and creating a new record, the old original contracts still remain in the system, so I can easily navigate back to those historical records and I can see who made the changes on the new contract transactions and what those changes were made. That's all for today on the ribbon button actions within Klevr Contracts for active contract records. Thank you very much.